Hey, and welcome back, YouTube. Would like to make a video on my trim bag. This seems to be kind of a popular video for my channel. Is on what I carry and what tools I use. When I say trim bag, this is the bag I use to install plumbing fixtures, faucets, toilets, wall-mounted sinks, just stuff of that nature. The bag itself is a Husky brand. It's a 12-inch bag. Picked that up at Home Depot for about $10 or so. It's nothing special, but as you can see, I got 3 pouches on the outside and just one inside, 12-inch pouch. It's no pockets or anything in there. But on the outside, I keep just a little, cheap razor knife. I don't believe I have anything in there. Actually, I do. Oop. Keep some ferrules. These happen to be the plastic 3/8 polyferros. Those seem to be hard to come by at our company, and so I keep those around. And because when you need them, you need them. It's one of those things. Also have a tape measure on this pouch, and then inside there I just keep the poly washers for slip joint fittings. I'm not going to pull those all out, but just keep them there. Just a small little pocket screwdriver, Sharpie. This really is only for my own use. It is it's a voltage tester, but basically all you use is you put it on the wire and it'll tell you if there's voltage. It's not, you don't want to 100% rely on it, but it's a nice thing to use. Like, for instance, if you are wiring up a garbage disposal, which we don't really do that at work. That's more for my own use. I think I've said in a couple other videos I do commercial plumbing. Another small pocket screwdriver, and this is a magnetic pickup tool, or what's left of it, but it still has the juices. And then I'll go into the main bag itself, and I'll start kind of pulling stuff out and explaining that to you. This right here is the Rigid, and let me see if I can get a tool number, and of course I don't see it on there, but this is the Rigid tool for cutting like tailpipe extensions and basically all the slip joint, the plastic drains pieces. But it's 1 1/4 1.5 inches, and basically you just slide the piece in there, you line it up with that, and then you just squeeze that, line it up, and rotate, and that cuts it. This thing is great. Like I said, I do commercial plumbing, so I don't use this on a daily basis. In fact, I rarely use it at work, but at home and stuff like that, this thing comes in handy, especially for your residential guys. You'll definitely use something like that. Let's see. I'm going through. There's a couple stuff in here that I won't use at work, but I just throw it in there. This is also another thing I don't use as often, but it's just a ratcheting snap cutter for plastic pipe. Use it on small CPVC pipe. Another Rigid tool, and give me a second here if I can find it. And yes, actually I can. Good. I'll do this one-handed. This is a Basin wrench by Rigid, and all this one says is faucet and sink installer. I don't know about the part number, but anyway, this will do, if I remember correctly, it does the nuts underneath on the faucets, so that'll tighten that up. And it's got 2 different sizes, and I believe you can even take that out. Oh, I'm sorry. That does the handles on supply lines. And let's see if I can do this one-handed. And you take that out. That will do the nuts that go underneath on the faucet and tighten those up. Like I said, that end will do the handles on an angle stop. I forget honestly what that end does, but I know it does something with those nuts or the supply line or something like that. This is a tub drain tool. You can use it in here, But honestly, what I do is I put a socket on here, which happens to be a 22mm socket. I'll put a socket on top of there and use a 1/2" drive ratchet, and I'll use that to take out tub drains and put them in. So that's what's good. It does also happen to have a hole in there for putting like a screwdriver in, but I don't know if you can tell, and of course it won't focus. Basically, on mine, it started to kind of wall out that opening, so I don't really do it that way anymore. I do the socket method, and it's great because you can see through here it passes through, and if there's a supply line in the way, you can still rotate that with that supply line. So that's a great little tool. That as well I don't use on a daily basis at work. In fact, I don't think I've ever used that at work, but that's more of a home use tool. If you're a residential guy, stuff like that. Tubing better, we use that quite a bit for installing mixing valves on a faucet, but that's just the bend soft copper and chrome copper supply lines. Small pair of channel locks. These are just the Husky brand, just because I don't use this size as much. But the reason I grabbed this size in particular is on the back of a pop-up assembly, there's a nut where the actual rod goes through, and I have found that these size channel locks happen to be the best for tightening them up just a bit, or taking them off if someone's gone before you and just crank down on them to the point where you can't take it apart. These size channel locks will work really well for that. Doesn't get used at work as often, but it still comes in use as well. Just a multi-bit screwdriver. This happened to be a Zern that we got, and it holds bits in there for doing the roof drains. They have a special bit, but just a multi-bit screwdriver. And another one here. There's a tamper-proof set that I use with that Zern one I showed you, the multi-bit holder. Small hacksaw for cutting floor-mounted closet bolts. That's about the only time I ever use this. Garbage disposal wrench. Never really use that at work. That's a home use tool, side jobs or whatever. But it's good for garbage disposals if you need them. These are new to me. These are a pair of channel locks, but they got a little kind of V cut into them. Those are great on nipples or larger hex nuts that I really don't care if I kind of mar the finish up. And this is also another tubing cutter. This is more for like PEX. More for PEX. You can use it on a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch CPVC if you kind of just start it and then rotate it a little bit and it kind of put some pressure on it. But I mostly use this to cut PEX. Never really use that at work as well. Another home use kind of tool. And this one right here, if you install a lot of kitchen sinks, this tool comes in handy. And unfortunately, yeah, even though I'm moving the light, you can't really see, but basically it is a flathead screwdriver. The tip's recessed in there, but it works really well when you're installing the clips on a top-mounted kitchen sink. Use that, tighten them up, but it works really well to get in tight places and tighten those screws that come with the clips versus trying to use like a impact wrench and then potentially stripping them out. This gives you better kind of feel on those clips. This thing is awesome. It took me a while to find it. I knew they existed out there, but I never could find them at a Lowe's or Home Depot. Happened to go into a Home Depot one day and I saw it and I picked it up for like 16 bucks. Really good tool. Use that a lot at work. You can see here this is a rigid inside and outside deburr for plastic. Mainly just use this on when I'm doing cutting in for angle stops to deburr CPVC, and also when I'm cutting PVC caps off when they're coming out through the wall where we stubbed them out and I want to glue my trap adapter on. I'll use that, kind of clean up that cut. These are another pair. These are not channel locks. They are Wild, W-I-L-D-E, Wild Tools. This is based off of a Craftsman design, but these things are awesome. They close up real small like that, but they open up fairly wide, but not in a big, don't have a big span on them, so you can grip real big things with them, but not have them open up as wide. And this, I use, these come in handy on tail pieces, the nuts on them, especially on a really tight spot, so a lot of drains, I'll use that on. I got these actually off of eBay. Some guy was selling them brand new for like 20 bucks, something like that, so I picked those up. Give me one second. Yeah, so I picked those up, and they've been quite handy. Just an 8-inch crescent wrench. Real big pair of channel locks. Those mostly get used on basket strainers. That's more for my own use, but that is a the stopper to a garbage disposal. And a lot of times you'll go through and you're testing stuff and you can't find one. So I just use that, obviously, to plug up the sink so I can dump water, get a volume test, and see if there's any leaks on what I installed. Old school Basin wrench that my dad gave me. Still works as well in conjunction with that Rigid, but you know, I like to have multiple tools that do the same thing for just different situations. You never know which one might work out, but I'll still use that. This also is a great tool, and I don't see it, but basically that is the Rigid one-stop wrench is what they're labeling that. And actually, funny enough, I was in Home Depot, no, Lowe's actually, and now Lowe's has their own brand of this. It looks the exact same thing. I'll be completely honest with you, haven't tried the Lowe's brand, the Cobalt, haven't tried it out. I only have the Rigid one. So I can't tell you if buying the cheaper version would be just the same results as this, but I had imagined that it wouldn't be. But what this does is a 9/16 and a 15/16 open-end wrench, basically. So what that does is it will tighten up the 3/8 end on a supply line. It will do the 1/2-inch end on a supply line. It will also do shower heads on this head. Yeah, it'll do the shower heads. The nut on there. This will stick on top of a 3/8 opening on a angle stop, and you put that on top of there and use that to tighten up the 5/8 compression nut. And I'm sorry, that's the end that does the 3/8 supply lines. I told you wrong on that one. That'll do the 1/2-inch side, but the two of them go together. Just goes in like so. And you just thread it in there. But yeah, that thing is this awesome. I've seen them for years, never really bought into it for a while, and I finally happened to have a gift card. I said, you know what, why not give it a shot? A couple rolls of Teflon tape, various thicknesses or widths, really. Spud wrench, use that a lot at work for tightening up and taking apart flush valves on vacuum breaker flush valves. So anything I want to tighten up or take apart without marring up the finish, because it's a smooth jaw, that's what that's used for. Let's see, we're almost getting down to the end of the stuff in here. Large flathead screwdriver. That pretty much the only time I use it, besides beating stuff with, is when I'm installing a garbage disposal. That is my go-to tool for tightening up the bracket underneath that holds the whole garbage disposal up. Basin Buddy. Actually, let me. It's a Husky actually, but I believe this is a clone of a Basin Buddy, and it goes on. There's an adapter here. You can either do 1/4 or 3/8, and it goes on socket, and that will tighten up the nuts that tighten up a faucet. So in certain situations, I'll use that as well. Sometimes I had to use that actually at one job. That's why it was purchased, because the nuts were so pushed up against the wall and the back of the sink, how it curved into. I don't even know how they got them in there originally, but I had to use something like this. actually I had to use that exact tool to get them out of there. So you can put an extension on there, you know, different lengths extensions. You can even put a swivel on there and kind of, you know, get into kind of crazy positions with your ratchet to take those off. So this thing's awesome. Don't use it often, but when I do, man, it's nice. Got some shims. These are the shims they use on commercial glazing, the windows, that shim them up. So every time I'm on my job, I see them, I'll grab a couple of big packs of these, throw them in my bag. But these work great for shimming up floor-mounted toilets. Of course, some emery cloth. That's about on his last leg, but some old emery cloth. Got this from work. That's a little, actually, oh yeah, it does. So on one side's 1/2 inch, one side's 3/8, and that's for tightening up the supply line nuts. To be honest with you, never used it, but it stays in my bag. And let's see. A couple tools in here that are only used only for work, but nothing really exciting. Let's see, last two things. I got a little 6-inch crescent wrench. It's actually one of my first tools I've ever purchased. And these are great on 3/8 supply lines. Just stuff you don't want to be able to crank down too much and destroy, but that's what I use a lot for trim. And this is a lot of the aerators that we install. You have to use this tool to remove them. So use that to take off the old aerators and put on new ones, or take them off, and then I'll bleed out through the faucet just to bleed air out and stuff and not get dirty in there. So alright guys, I hope you liked that. Like I said, that's my trim tool bag. That's for pretty much installing. As you can see, there's a couple tools in there for doing repairs, but I don't really do repairs ever at work. It's basically installs. So hope you guys liked it.